morning, everybody. Today I'm just going to show you how I trace out a pattern. So I have used this pattern previously and I've always made the hoodie. So today I actually want to make myself this jumper here. So I have to retrace out all the pattern pieces that I need. So this is not the neatest of how I usually keep it. Usually all these pieces are in its slip. But I'm going to just show you how I make or cut out a pattern. I never cut these pattern pieces. I have a couple of times, and every single time I lose one of the pieces and then I can't use the pattern. So I have learned from my mistakes and I no longer do that. So we are making C today. So we need to find all the pattern pieces that say, so this is piece number 6 sleeve for A, B, and C. So I need to trace out this one in my size. So I have this cool roll of stuff here. This is called trace and toil or pattern trace, or lots of people call it lots of different things. But basically it's a see-through kind of fabric. It's tougher than the tissue paper because you can't tear it. It is actually quite firm. So I can stretch it, but it takes quite a lot to tear, but it is easy to cut. So what I do is I lay out my pattern piece and I've got my blue board underneath. No particular reason. I don't have to have that there. I just didn't move it before I started recording. But you could just use your table. And then I'm going to line up the bottom of the seam of the sleeve with the close to the bottomless, the lowest part that I can get the sleeve fitting on here. So you want to completely cover everything. Now, to trace patterns out, there are a lot of straight lines, so I always have a ruler to be able to rule the straight lines. So I'm going to start here at the bottom. Now, if you want to, you can put some pattern weights on this if you're worried that it's going to move. So I'm going to trace like this, and then I'm just going to kind of do sketchy lines to trace up and around. So I'm doing a size small because I have checked and I know that I'm a size small. But if I wanted a baggy jumper, I could do a medium. So I'm just going to trace around this. My husband's home, so hold on a second. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to go and sketch. Now I know you can't see it on the video, but me standing over this, I can very clearly see where the line is. Now it sometimes gets a little bit fuzzy when you've got things like darts, because there's lots and lots of lines and you don't know which one to follow. But you can always just move this back to C. So the small one, so there's a circle marked on the pattern. So I'm going to mark the circle here. Then I'm going to grab my ruler because it's a straight line. And I'm going to rule down to that dot. And so then I'm going to lift it up again to see where my small line is, which is the outside one in this particular instance. And I'm going to rule that one as well. So they meet down to the point. And then I'm going to continue sketching. And the reason I don't do one solid line is I find that I never draw it as straight as if I'm doing these little sketchy lines. I actually get it more accurate doing this way, but if you've got a really good steady hand, you can just draw a solid line like that. I can do it sometimes, most of the time I can't though. Right, so then I'm getting to here and I can see that there's a single triangle. Now the triangles on patterns are so that you can match them up with other triangles. So I'm just going to finish sketching the edge. I always like to do the edge first because then it's done. Now, there's a lot of lines on here, so I'm just going to pull it back to show you. There are dots here and here, so we need to mark those onto the patterns. 1 and 2. I am then also going to write the pattern brand, the number of the pattern, the piece number, which in this case is number 6, and then I'm going to write sleeve, how many to cut, so this one says cut 2, and I'm going to write what size I have done, so that if I ever drop this piece of pattern, I will be able to put it straight back where it needs to be. I know exactly what it's for. cut 2, size small. So I can now look at this piece and it's full size small, how many I need to cut so I never have to pull this out again, and where it lives in my drawer of hundreds of patterns. Now, on this side, we can go back and continue marking. So the idea is that this mark will line up with this mark when we make the sleeve. So this is just in case anything kind of gets pulled or lopsided. It's a helpful way to match things up. We've also got 1 triangle here and then 2 triangles here, because one will be the front of the sleeve and one will be the back. We've also got a line here, pretty sure it's this one. So I'm going to use a ruler because this one, so every time you see a pattern with a straight line and an arrow, quite often it'll tell you what it is. This is the grain line. So what that means is this line needs to be exactly even with this selvage edge, which is the very, very edge of your fabric. And then I think that's about all I need to mark. This bit is not relevant. Here, they've actually got a line here that you can mark if you want to. And they have this on a lot of patterns. So if you need to alter your patterns, this is where you do it. So with this line here, if you need a longer sleeve, you'll add it into this bit here. Not at the end, because then that'll make the wrist too thin. So that you lengthen and shorten here. I usually don't write this because I tend to fit patterns pretty well. But because I'm teaching you, you can put those lines in. So they're just 2 thin double lines next to each other. You'll find them on any pattern piece that will need altering. But for example, you're not going to find it on the hood because the hood's kind of like a very general one size fits all and they're always oversized anyway. So that is how you draw out patterns. And then what I would do is I would go and see if I could find a smaller piece to use in here. You can buy this in rolls from Spotlight or by the meter. I always buy it in a roll because I use so much of it. So I'm going to just continue with all the pieces. So the next piece here is a back piece that I reckon I could probably squeeze into here with some maneuvering. So I'm just going to push the pattern and then line it all up right, not there, right there. So again, if you want to, you can put pattern weights and then we're just going to trace around it. So this is the back. We might actually do this one. So this is the back. So we're going to have a straight line because this one requires to be cut on the fold. So with a fold, you will always find 2 arrows pointing towards it like this with a straight line joining them. And sometimes it says on fold or cut on fold, or sometimes it just says fold. So you should always mark that so that you know, but always mark it with a ruler so that you know it's going to be 100% straight. Then I've got a little dot here. We're going to come down. And then it kicks out. That would be the seam allowance there. And I'm cutting this pretty close. I also quite often, even though it's curves, will still use my ruler because I can just mark the ruler along it. And then here again, if I wanted to, here are the lengthen and shorten lines. So you just rule 2 very close lines together. The more you do it, the more you're going to know what it means. So then McCall's M6614. This is piece 5. And I always put that in a circle so that I know that that's what I'm looking at. Back. Cut 1 on fold. Size small. Or size S because I'm lazy and or efficient, whichever way you want to look at it. So I will just continue on with all of that and then I will cut this out and then I will lay it out and we're going to make a hoodie because I want one. So I hope this was helpful. Further through when I actually do the next video with making the hoodie, I will further explain all of these little triangles for you, but that is how I would trace it. All right, guys, talk to you later.